Before thought arises, before emotion, before identity, there is sound. Not a sound produced by the world, and not one created by the ears, but a constant signal that exists beneath perception itself. This sound is not something consciousness hears. It is something consciousness emerges from, what we call awareness, memory, and identity. Intention is shaped by how this signal is filtered, interpreted, and limited by perception. When perception narrows, consciousness appears fragmented. When perception quiets, the source becomes audible. That source is what we call the nadam. The nadam is a spiritual phenomenon directly associated with the ringing, experienced in their ears. It is often labeled or dismissed as tinnitus. While they may appear similar on the surface, the nadam and conventional tinnitus are not the same experience. They arise from the same source, but diverge significantly in function, perception, and use. This ringing has many applications and implications. Importantly, the sound does not originate from the physical ears themselves. Instead, it is filtered through the brain and perceived through the faculty of hearing. Because of this, the nadam is not a physical sound. It is a sound of the mind. This distinction matters. Understanding it is key to recognizing what it truly is and how it can be consciously engaged. We'll clarify this further as we move forward. Today, we will explore a technique that utilizes the nadam directly and demonstrates some of its potential through experience. This technique allows a practitioner to establish a noticeable connection with another person. The process begins by recognizing the ringing as it appears within the mind, where it becomes perceptible as sound. From there, the practitioner overlays the idea, thoughts, and conceptual presence of another person onto that sound. What follows is a guided interaction between the awareness of yourself and the awareness of another. Before we begin, let's establish this truth. When thinking of the ringing in our minds, rather than chasing altered states or forcing concentration, the focus shifts to recognizing what is already present beneath thought and sensation. The nadam does not need to be created or amplified. It only needs to be noticed and stabilized through attention. Once this sound is recognized clearly within the mind, it can be used as a point of reference. Attention anchored here becomes steady, receptive, and precise. This creates the conditions required for intentional application rather than passive experience. With that foundation established, we can now move into the technique itself and begin working directly with it in a deliberate way. What follows is a step-by-step process designed to help you isolate the ringing, stabilize your attention, and apply it with clarity. The technique is called frequency recognition. Step 1. Isolate the nadam. In order to perform any techniques with the ringing perceived through our minds, one must truly perceive the ringing from the mind. Some can already do this and likely hear it while watching this, especially since I've pointed it out. It has likely become louder. This is a good sign, but don't worry if this isn't the case. Just focus on the ringing and you will inevitably hear it. Step 2. If the ringing is louder in your ears, simply realize that it is in your mind, not your ears. This thought with undivided attention creates genuine realization of the concept. Step 3. Once you perceive the ringing from your mind and not your ears, you are ready to continue. This ringing is a limited perception of source and infinity. Learn to sustain and focus on this ringing. Step 4. Set a control for your exercise. Take note of the pitch of ringing, the consistency, and the feeling within your body as you continue to realize the frequency and other subtle variables you can notice. Step 5. After a few seconds of mental notation, sustain the ringing, then envision someone you'd like to think about. Overlay your thoughts over the ringing. Let them all become one thing. I recommend you pause now and attempt. The ringing will change. Multiple things will change, especially within your perception. Take mental notes of how the ringing shifts with constant attention. Sustain this for about 15 seconds or so. Step 6. Think of someone else. Notice how the physical sensations within the body alter and shift to match the frequency and perception of the nadam, but it's not just that. The person you are thinking of, you are receiving and recognizing subtle cues about their present existence and state of mind. Step 7. Choose to stop here, or repeat with a few more people. After you're done, I recommend meditation or deep contemplation to truly understand what you have just experienced and everything it implies. As you sustain this focus, you'll begin to notice that both the physical and mental effects carry subtle information within them. Changes in the ringing are not random. They correspond to shifts in state, If the sound becomes higher in pitch and you experience sensations such as warmth, lightness, or mild excitement, the person you've chosen is likely in a positive or elevated state of mind. With continued practice, this can become more specific, allowing you to distinguish emotional tones and even patterns of thought in others from a distance. If the vibration lowers in pitch and is accompanied by sensations of coldness, heaviness, stillness, or contraction, the person is likely experiencing a type of stress, negativity, or internal conflict. Information does not arrive in a single form. It may appear as sensation, emotional resonance, mental imagery, or a shift in your entire state of awareness. What the information represents is determined through discernment and genuine enlightenment. You learn to read it by observing how awareness itself changes in response to the connection. This discernment improves naturally with practice, as sensitivity increases and perception becomes more refined. This ringing is the sound of union. It marks the point where attention and awareness collapse into a single experience. When focused on directly, it becomes a powerful anchor for meditation and a stabilizing force in deeper spiritual practice. As you've likely noticed already, this is not a single-use concept. There are many ways this phenomenon can be applied, each revealing different effects depending on intention, attention, clarity, perception, and conception. These are known as archetypes of collective consciousness. Now, let's explore some of the basic archetypes that can be experienced through this understanding. A good starting point is the archetype of compassion. To become attuned to this archetype, begin by recognizing the nadam, listen to the ringing for a few seconds, allowing it to stabilize and establish a neutral reference point for this exercise. Once the sound feels steady, bring the concept of compassion fully into awareness. Just as you previously held the idea of another person in mind, now hold the idea of compassion itself. Do not analyze it. Simply realize it as a living concept. Next, overlay the concept of compassion onto the ringing. Allow the idea and the sound to merge within the mind until they are experienced as one unified presence. As this happens, you will notice a shift. The ringing will change in quality, and your body's physical sensations will respond accordingly. You may feel softer, warmer, more open, and more empathetic. These effects can be difficult to describe, but they are unmistakable once recognized. Depending on your clarity and application, this state represents attunement with the archetype of compassion. I recommend pausing here and experimenting with this directly before moving on. Experience is the teacher in this process. Now, let's explore another archetype. This time, we'll work with the archetype of power. The method is exactly the same, though the result is very different. Begin again by recognizing the ringing. Listen for a few seconds to re-establish your neutral reference point. Then bring the concept of power fully into awareness, just as you did with compassion. Hold it clearly and completely. Overlay the concept of power onto the ringing itself, allowing the two to merge into a single experience within the mind. You'll notice a distinct shift. The sensations become stronger, more energetic, and more rigid. There is often a sense of structure, intensity, and forward pressure. This state serves as a clear contrast to compassion, as the two archetypes produce inherently opposite effects. By comparing these states directly, you begin to understand how archetypes are not abstract ideas, but lived configurations of awareness that can be entered, exited, and refined through attention. By understanding archetypes, you can truly understand the emotions someone else embodies at any given moment. This truth allows for a deeper understanding of self and others to an unfathomable degree. What you've practiced here is only the foundation. In future videos, we'll explore how concepts like this can be used in more specific and directed ways, and what becomes possible when this signal is engaged deliberately with more refined levels of awareness. For now, simply continue to notice it. The more familiar it becomes, the less it feels like something you hear, and the more it feels like something you return to. If you liked the information, be sure to subscribe for more content like this in the future. We are actively changing the world, one realization at a time.